probably one of the hardest Buddhist texts in the Sutras, but it's awesome. So if you're just barely hanging in there, like I am, please hang on just 2 more classes. Okay? And just open up to thinking about these ideas in the world and imagining that the essence of these ideas. We're using Buddhist terms, but the essence of what these terms, thank you, what these terms point to. Man, why'd you do that? The essence of what these words point to, like a map that you might have on your iPhone, is showing the terrain of a real place. The words that we're using, the words that appear in these teachings and other teachings around the world, but particularly the Buddhist teachings, point to a real place of experience that's only ever inside you. So I ask you to listen with that kind of motivation. Yeah. So traditionally, before we start to invoke that motivation, we make an offering of a perfect universe in Tibetan. Who wants to do the sounds? Can you do it? Can you do it? Paul! Bukir Jishin Metodram Viram Nimshir Yam Padi Sangye Shindu Vitevivagi Rabinanda Chinlajivasho Hiranguratnamanda Kamyatayami Sangye Shridam Zaki Joknanda Janshu Vardu Dapni Gapsuji Dadi Jinyen Gipet Sanamki Drola Benchir Sangye Parsho Sangye Chiram Zaki Joknanda Janshu Vardu Dapni Gapsuji Dahi Jinyen Gipet Sanamki Drola Benchir Sangye Parsho Sangye Jiram Zoki Joknanda Janshu Vardu Dapni Gapsuchi Dahi Jinyen Gipet Sanamki Rola Benchir Sangye Parsho. Okay, so we'll take a quick meditation, maybe about 5 to 7 minutes. I always make an effort to make them relative to the class. So get ready for some psychedelics today. So take a comfortable seated position, make sure your base is firm. Meditation is just trying to focus your mind, like getting lost in an amazing book or a great movie. You don't think of your body and things around you as you're lost, and your mind is completely focused on that thing. Similarly, just get your body to a place where it's not going to call for your attention in the next few minutes. And then to get your mind and other senses focused, just breathe. That's all you have to do. Begin breathing through your nostril, your back is straight, do one scan of your body to just relax any part of your body that's got any tension. For me, it's usually the brow or the shoulders. And as each breath enters and exits your nostril, you just relax. Make a commitment that whatever comes to bother your mind, you can address it later in the next 10 minutes or something. So for now, and nothing is so important that needs to get your attention. So begin now focusing on your breath, the sensation of the air entering and exiting your nostril, or your chest rising and falling, as if something inside you is moving it up and down. All you have to do is just observe the difference between the exit and the entry. You can count if that helps you focus. See if you can count up to 7 without getting distracted on some other thing, an itch, a sound, a movement, or a memory, or a thought. Just push the mind against the breath and count from 1, exhale, in, 2, exhale. Just see if you can now grab your mind's eye and place it on the ceiling of this room, looking down at you seated, meditating on the cushion. Observe yourself perfectly still, still feeling the sensation of the breath moving naturally, rhythmically, without you forcing it. See as the perceiver if you can begin to rise up higher and higher until you see this building in the city of New York. You still see yourself radiant, seated on that cushion down there. And all your friends for the night also seated next to you. Go higher and higher. You're still able to see every detail of you down there. And somewhere before the atmosphere ends, see if you can pause. Now imagine bursting forward from your chest. There's a long line of events. Similarly, from your back there is a long line of events. These can be frames or bubbles, each one containing a moment in the past, and moments in the future. Some of the frames in front of you are unknown. You get fuzzier and fuzzier the more forward you go. Some of the ones in the past change depending on how you perceive them. Each time you recall a memory, you shift it a little. For this exercise, I want you to keep going forward on that line until you come to the end of this life, and then imagine the line, your mind continuing. Another expression, another set of frames, and then continuing. And the more you look, the more it continues. It doesn't end. At some point, there is enough goodness in your heart to perceive yourself as coming out of the cycles of life and death. At some point, as you follow that line, the quality of that line perceiving itself changes. At some point, the frames no longer have the hurts of this life, the sufferings of pain, aging, death, changing. At some point, you begin to feel and experience a permanent bliss. Dive into the frame. From your perception, go straight into the frame at some future time, just before you reach a state of enlightenment. You're being pushed permanently into a state of peace beyond suffering. Step into that picture. Make it 3D. Imagine what you would be perceiving if that was now. What would peace experience be like? How would your mind perceive your body? Final moments before you flop into a complete Buddha, what transformations are going in your physical form, the way you perceive it in your mind? How do you see things around you? See if you can hold that feeling. And turn to look at your memories. Turn to look at the causes of that moment, what produced that experience in your mind, what wisdoms, what acts of kindness. Who were the players that helped you get there? How did they appear when you were suffering? And how are they appearing now? And then gradually bring your mind back to the being in the sky pointing down and float back into your body. Feel what it's like to be in your skin. Remember that you could perceive it any other way. dedicate whatever goodness you've experienced, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so it's been a couple of weeks. Hi, welcome everyone. Hope you all had a great 4th of July. That was supposed to be the day of independence or something. Yeah? Is that it? The rest of the world doesn't do that. They're not independent.
Are we?
But, yeah, that's what I was going to do. It's unique. Okay. As always, see if you can listen with a mind of, if you get these ideas that are pointing to a thing, right? Pointing to an experience that is available to you. See if you can listen with a motivation to help other people get that idea, if you get the idea. Does that make sense? Whatever you're taking in, you can internalize. Listen with not a selfish motivation. So, to a motivation to offer or help another. Really help you understand it. So review, last one. What are we studying? Sorry for the newbies, but this is going to be
Buddhism.
Yeah, 101! Fantastic. No. What's the text we're studying? What's that name in Sanskrit? No. Sanskrit. What's diamond in Vajra? Yeah. What's Vajra? What's Charika?
Cutter.
Cutter. Why is that the name of the sutra? What's the main subject?
Emptiness.
Emptiness, wisdom. Yeah. Okay. Same thing. Synonyms for the same idea. The thing that we're pointing to, right? Things are empty. What does that mean? Are they hollow? Hollow? No. Yeah. Means they don't have a nature from their own side the way we experience them alone. Yeah? So there's nothing in things that have that nature in and of themselves. Proof is simple. You get more than one creature looking at the same thing and they all have different perceptions. That's why we have wars. We say, no, my way of looking at that is right. No, mine is right, so I'll punch you in the head. Yeah? See if mine ends up being right. Why is the word diamond synonymous with that idea of emptiness? Give me the 3 metaphors for why a diamond is like an ultimate thing, an empty, the thing that everything
Represents the ultimate.
Explain.
It's the hardest substance.
Right? So a diamond on this planet is the hardest substance, and that is the closest to an absolute, an ultimate, right?
It's very clear, you can't see it. There is a diamond wall around you and you just wake up to it.
Right, perfect structure of a diamond. It's completely clear if there's a wall between you and I, and like that, it's this thing, this word is pointing to this idea, right? Things that have a nature from the on the side is in every single object and every part of every single object in this world, in this room. We can't experience it in you, in me, in thoughts, in the time, in everything. And the realm we're existing in, we are unable to see it without some study. First we experience it intellectually and then we have a direct experience. But me telling you about this amazing thing called ice cream and you've never heard of it, and I tell you it's soft and squishy in your mouth, and cold and sweet, and you're like, I know what sweet is and I know what cold is and I know what sushi is, but until you put ice cream in there, you don't have a direct experience of ice cream. Similarly, you can have intellectual understanding of a thing, and then eventually you can have a direct experience. Okay.
With the third
Thank you.
thing, that if you cut it, it's the same no matter what, it doesn't change.
Correct. So another quality of diamond, which is synonym for ultimate reality, the reality that exists beyond the way we're forced to perceive this experience, the code behind this matrix, the quality is ultimate, it's everywhere, and every part of it, every instance of emptiness, the emptiness of the clock, the emptiness of this, is equally void of self-existence. Yeah? There is no clockness that comes from the clock's side. It comes from where?
You, the perceiver.
How do you prove that? How do you know it comes from the perceiver? Oh, good, we're doing the cheat. We'll get there in a
How you
second.
know that's from the
Course.
perceiver is because I'm doing it right now, and I can't perceive what you're perceiving.
Because that's
Just
not a
that's-
clock to a dog. That's a
Okay,
to a,
yeah.
any other creature.
Yeah, so it's, in essence it's that. So, A, we have slightly different perceptions of that thing. B, if we're in different realms of existence in this planet alone, dogs or elephants and me and Eskimos and everybody looking at that object, that no clock comes from that object and says loudly to the perceiver, I am a clock. Yeah? There are as many perceptions of that object as there are perceivers. To be in a human realm, see, this is the difference in perceiving a complete reality from an Eastern perspective. We're not taught this in the West. We think, okay, I'm a human and things are like this. For true, I know because I was taught at school. But if you grow up with this other philosophy, that what it means to be a human is to share that experience of clock. If you don't share that experience of clock or can't learn it as an Eskimo that has never seen clock, and then we talk and communicate and convene and have a conventional experience of that and agree, then that you're not in this realm, you're not a human. So you can yell to the monkey, clock, 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 until he points to that thing, but he's not or she's not experiencing that thing in the totality of the human realm. So then we talk about all the realms of existence, etc. in other parts. That's what it means to share this harness, this projections, these experiences upon empty objects. This is what we share. And then you can get subsets and subgroups of that. Let me quickly review a couple of other things, and then I want to review last class and get on to these next two classes. So I don't do to you what I did 2 weeks ago. Do you remember the 4 bodies of a Buddha? I'll take 3 if you have them. What's the Dharmakaya?
The emptiness of his mind.
The emptiness of the Buddha's mind, that universal Buddha mind.
There's 2 types of Dharmakaya, right? But we mainly talk about one, which is the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. Yeah? In what sense is that part of the Buddha the same as yours, or similar to yours? Huh? Exactly. So, if emptiness is part of everything, yeah, and my mind is a thing, and the Buddha's mind is a thing, and what does it mean, the Dharmakaya, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind? What does that mean?
That means the untainted, the unstained mind, the mind that is not afflicted or is not.
The emptiness of the mind, what does it mean? It means the mind has something we deny, right? That it possesses something we deny. Empty of what? What are we denying it has? Of intrinsic nature. So the Buddha's mind, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind means what? It means exactly. So the Buddha's experiencing his mind or her mind as an enlightened being, just like Hector's experiencing his mind as I'm just a schmuck on planet Earth with my problems and my things, and that experience comes from my karmas, my perceptions, on something that is as full of potential as that clock is to every being that looks at it. That object is to every being that looks at it. So the way the mind experiences itself has no nature. There's nothing in the mind that forces it to be a human mind.
Except for our karmas.
Except for the things that we're nominally experiencing, which are our karmas. Where our karmas are forcing us to see this, and we share those, and so we're in this room. The dogs cannot see clock, they'll go and chew it or bark at it or whatever, and they share that impulse, their karma, energetic push onto something that doesn't have a nature. The nature that they're experiencing is forced onto that object from them. Karma, emptiness. Yeah, we'll talk about that in detail next class. This class today we're going to run through last class, which was the entire path from Hector's to complete enlightenment. We went through the 5 paths. Yeah. To get there, we stopped at a couple of points. One was a key understanding of this idea of chi, jedra. Yeah, and we'll review that again today. What else do I need to check? In the sutra, it's a conversation, right, between 2 people or one person. It's a conversation between one person and the Buddha. Sariputta and the Buddha, and so they have this dialogue, which the Tibetan debate mimics that dialogue in all the sutras. So what are they debating? What are they questioning? They're questioning this ultimate nature of things. They're digging deep in the underbelly of how things are empty and why things are changeable. In essence, the teaching on emptiness, the profound teaching on emptiness, is that every single experience and every single thing and every single being we interact with has the potential to be anything else as well. But we're this. And this can be amazing at the moment, and then it changes everything. Emptiness, the fact that things are empty allow us to get free from suffering. Allow us, are the reason why things can change for the better or the worse. But the better is where we're heading. Yeah. So to do that, we talk about the 5 paths. Let me see if I need to do anything else. We talked about the sutra keeps talking about a self, a living being, a life, and a person. It keeps saying those things, right? There is anything that thinks of itself as a self, a living being, a life, or a person. What do those mean? Do you remember that? When we talk about the self.
Me and mine.
Yeah, great. Me and mine. The first 2 things that cause the cycle of suffering, right? Ignorance of things being self-existent, and then you have this idea of me and mine, and then you start acting on things. This is me, and that's mine. You're not me, so I don't like you as much as I like me. Yeah, that is mine. Piss off. That etc. That's not mine. I don't want you to take it. It's disgusting. Yeah. So causing all the negative karmas, all the actions we do of body, speech, and mind, not understanding that they actually come from us. Yeah? So when the Buddha keeps talking, or showed what are we talking about? Subhuti, thank you. Subhuti, a self, a living, a life, or a person. Thank you. Thank you. I was doing the Heart Sutra the other day. I'm not sure. When talking about the self, they're referring to me thinking I am this way from my own side. Yeah? Forgetting the emptiness of me. Yeah? When it talks about a living being, it's talking about the things that I as a being have: my body, my arm, my parts. Yeah? Mine. When it talks about a life, it just talks about that first idea of me over time. That's all. Yeah, so we think we are the same being now when we were 5, and that's not true.
From birth to death, like one.
Yeah, Yeah, from one life. And then a person is over lifetimes. Yeah? So it's the idea of me over lifetimes. So when they say no self, no living being, no life, or a person in the Sutra, they're really saying anyone who perceives a me as self-existent, a mind as self-existent, a me over one lifetime as self-existent. Yeah? That's a life, and me as a person in the human realm over and over. Yeah?
In one life? Or?
In several lifetimes. Yeah, this idea that after this life we can go to the next life as humans,
As
or
a person.
As a person.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
Okay, last class review. Here we go. Two types of beings. You can divide the entirety of all existing beings in the universe of all time into two types. Some are so-so and some are not. Do you remember those words? So-so kewa and a papa. What's a so-so kewa? I love that because it's easy to remember. It's an ordinary so-so, just a regular being, person that has to go through cycles of suffering, many and cycles in this thing we call samsara. And papa,
Realized being.
a realized being, realized what? Had a good idea. Yeah, an Arya, right? Someone who has had a direct experience of the ultimate nature of reality, understands intellectually first, then experientially, that once they understand it experientially, they have this thing we call seeing emptiness directly. But I don't want to keep repeating those words for them to become a thing, because it's not a thing. It's pointing to an experience. So you have to work as you get these ideas into your consciousness. You've got to walk around. And I remember doing this the first time I got these teachings on emptiness. It was so strange to hear my holy teacher go over and over emptiness. I'm like, I heard you last time. Part of me was like resisting, but another part of me was like, well, is there something I'm not getting? Because he's not stupid. Like, why would he be repeating himself over and over? Is it something I'm not getting? So I would walk the streets and he'd say, just think of everything as empty. And I remember distinctly walking down a road with all these trees and imagining, what the hell does that do for me? How does it help me to understand that this tree is empty? I'm imagining an empty tree, right? And that doesn't really help you. We have to keep understanding the idea of emptiness because it's so contrary to the way we experience things. When the seed of experience ripens and you have a moment, like somebody yelling at your face, your response is already out your mouth before you can even philosophize, where does this experience come from? Is it true that this being has no nature? Could I perceive that? You won't have that. That's what meditation and all these other studies are there for. You habituate your mind at the beginning, you collect some of these ideas and you prepare yourself for that event, and eventually you can remove suffering with the idea of emptiness if you've prepared yourself. In fact, that's one of the ideas of taking refuge. We'll talk about that at the end of the class. This idea of refuge or protection, the only thing that can really protect you is what's in this text. It's what's the ideas that are written down in this thing called the Dharmakaya Sutra or the Heart Sutra, or there are other philosophies that teach this idea. The reason it is protection, and we'll talk again about it in more detail when we talk about Kinkalinga, is that as you are experiencing suffering, if it's true that things don't have a nature from their own side, and that the thing that's forcing your experience is your karma, your past energies inside your mind, forcing a perception upon something that doesn't have a nature from its own side, then every single thing we experience, great and bad, is our own doing. It's like a time delay mirror, but a mirror that grows everything that you're doing over time, like a seed can create a forest. Like a tree that then grows and grows and grows, the result is always greater than its cause. So the reason understanding emptiness is a refuge, is a protection, is because you can't hold, your mind is incapable of holding two of these thoughts in at the same time. I hate you because you hurt me, and then there is no nature from her own side. And if I habituated that and that keeps coming up more, it short circuits the I hate you, and therefore prevents me from acting out that I dislike you, which is, if I understand it, coming from me, from something similar I've done to other beings. So if I've habituated that, then understanding your true nature, if I truly understand, the more I understand it, the more it becomes closer to a realization than an intellectual. The last thing I want to do to a mirror is hate you, because then I will have 10,000 hate yous. Just like that one. Understanding that that one is just a reflection, I don't hate you, right?
It's okay.
Understanding that that one is just a reflection of what is just in the storehouse of seeds in your mind, and you are just experiencing as a goodness as well as a badness. So we tend to get stuck on all the suffering, or remove the suffering, which shit is terrible. But you start counting all the amazing ripenings that are in your life right now. You start counting what is healthy about you. The capacity to cognize, the capacity to imagine, the capacity to love, the capacity to hear, the capacity to understand, the capacity to ingest, the capacity to grow. These are equal karmas. These are not bad things. These are not sufferings. But in this realm they end, and that's a bigger suffering. That's another story, right? But the reason emptiness, the content of this work, is a protection, is because if you understand what it's saying truly, you will A, stop creating the causes for future suffering for you and others, and B, be able to stop the current state of affliction over our suffering. Meaning, if someone is hurting you, you can stop yourself from planting the causes for later, and by standing on emptiness, I don't want to say that the hurt stops, because it doesn't. It short circuits you from being afflicted. So there's a short-term result of an action and a long-term result. So if I'm angry now, that afflicts me right now. So that short-term thing can go away. That's what I'm trying to get to. Okay. So we have a sosakewa and a papa. We had this idea of renunciation. Do you remember what renunciation? There were two meanings. What the meaning of renunciation meant? You were leaving somewhere.
Leaving your old way of thinking.
Leaving the home life, which meant two things, right? It meant nirvana. That's not the one we're talking about. It meant leaving your home life, meaning
your old way of
perceiving
thinking
things, or being attached to worldly things. Leaving the home life doesn't mean you stop having a wife and kids, etc. You stop having the attachments of wanting those things to satisfy you, because you know that the only thing that satisfies you is the karmas you're producing. There's no nature of the wife and the house and the car and the rest. So you begin to shed and to leave the idea that all the silly activity we do on this planet to try and get happy, you leave it before it leaves you. Okay? Before it leaves you. I have a friend whose dad is just caught this rare disease, and it happens to 200 Americans a year, and it's an advanced form of dementia. It happens over a short time. So just 6 weeks ago, his dad was a normal, active, working, excited dad. Now he's a few days away from not being his dad anymore. His memory is gone, his motor skills are gone, his eyes are barely open, he can just hear. And he went in 6 weeks from getting lost, not remembering words, not knowing who his wife is, all the way to death. Whatever we work towards, we have to say goodbye to. The only things that you have as an inner experience at that time, no mountain of cash next to you there can help you through. Really. The only things you have, if your consciousness continues, is the content of your mind. And it's not even the rough content, because the knowledge that we have intellectually, that also goes, as I described. The base energy. That's why getting to meditation, getting to more and more subtle levels of mind, lets you manipulate and understand what's under there. And that's why building those karmas, those storehouse of goodness down there, is so vital for moving on in this long string of existence we call life after life after life after life in this philosophy. What do you think is going to happen when it's your turn? I mean, as horrible as it is, I don't like bring it up all the time as, oh, pay attention, we're going to die. It's not like that. It's a real thing. It's the only thing you know for certain is coming, you just don't know when. What do you really think is going to happen then? What's going to come up internally for you? And only the stuff you've put in there. Only the impulses and the kind of person you've become. And this realm is so bizarre, it's like a slippery slope in the shower. You think you've got a handle of how to manage your happinesses and so on, and you're busy over there doing this, and then you turn around and you realize you've been doing all these things bizarrely. I had one of those this morning. I'm like, I've been practicing some of this stuff for 17 years, and I missed this whole idea about how I charge emotionally the act of practice. So if I don't do it right, bad boy, you're a terrible Catholic, like I grew up. And so every time I make efforts towards a goodness, I realize I've been habituating, you're a terrible bad human. And it was so subtle, and I was wondering, why do I feel stressed? I'm doing a goodness, why am I feeling stressed? I'm actually doing something nice. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been feeling stressed for 17 years about doing a goodness, feeling incongruent. And it's this thing that snuck in, and it's a habit that's stuck. Like, what do you call those things under the ships that...
Barnacles.
Yeah, like a huge, filthy, disgusting barnacle that just slowed down my ship. Thank you, that's an awesome metaphor. Nick?
And you have the strange words you even know.
Yeah, I will yell out for a metaphor. Thank you. What's a metaphor for let's move on?
Giddy up.
Giddy up? I think that's not a metaphor.
Maybe
it's a euphemism. No, I'm an euphemism. So renunciation, this idea of living the home life, getting true disgust for, doesn't matter what I'm going to do here, it's got that end. And it doesn't mean you give up on good things. It just means you start looking at the world in a different way. That's the first of the 5 paths. Do you remember what that's called? Path of accumulation. You're accumulating what? You're gathering what?
Good merit.
Merit. And that takes you to the path of, so merit means a storehouse of goodness that when you're lying in that bed, when it's your turn, the main energy in your subtle mind is a goodness, propelling you into a nicer experience. Hopefully you don't have to get to that if we can figure out how to break the code before that. If you build enough merit, you then enter into the path of preparation. You're preparing for the third path, which is the path of seeing emptiness directly, right? A direct experience of it. So the path of preparation has 4 stages. I don't think I covered the 4 stages. It's not important. What's important about the second path is how are you preparing? What are you preparing? Path of preparation. This is it. This is like the whole point of any kind of this study is these 5 paths. Every teacher will connect to some of these 5 paths. If you know this in your heart, then then you have the map and you can walk your terrain.
You're preparing your mind to understand emptiness directly.
Great. Give me that without this terminology. Give me a metaphor.
You're prepping your mind to see how things work, to see the nature of things, the root of things. Yeah.
Not self-consistent. Yeah.
Okay. So you
Intellectually.
You've got, in the first part, hold on a minute, you've got a wake-up call, maybe it was a tragedy or an amazing thing or a big burst of aha, and you're like, something fishy is going on around here. This world isn't working like I thought it worked. Yet, I've been tranced by everyone else that says the causes of happiness are getting a job, getting a career, getting a car. The causes of getting rid of headaches are eating enough. My English words disappearing. Aspirin, yeah, thank you. But then, if aspirin had the nature to remove headache, every aspirin would remove headache. Not every aspirin removes headache. Okay, well that's a little weird. That's a little glitch in this world, but that's okay. But working gives money, right? If I work really hard, or if I'm really intelligent, I'm gonna have a good job. Not every intelligent person has a good job. Not every working hard person. That's right. So we call that karma, but something in this world, the way we were taught in this system, isn't functioning. The causality we think is happening in the system, we've got it fairly right about manipulating nominal reality, like I can make plastic with such, and I can make glass with sand, but we forget, or we don't even apply that idea to our consciousness, to the human mind. Not the brain, the mind, the way we perceive reality. And it's exactly the same thing. It's the idea of cause and effect. And for something to be a cause, it must always give the same effect. Not 99.9% of the time. If it only does it that time, it's not a cause. So when you figure that out, when something hits you in the face saying, I've tried all these things to get happy, and for me, it was lovers, or sex, or food, or travel, or location, moving jobs, or friendships, or shoes. Oh my god, shoes.
Oh my god, shoes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Huh? Did you say boobs?
That's gross.
We never tried that.
And then you realize, okay, maybe I'll try something else, yeah? And then you can get all freaky and get crystals and, tarot readings, which I did, and the Buddha did. The Buddha pretended to try all these other weird parts first too, yeah? And then he said, no, there's a middle way, there's a different way. So, the first path is renunciation. Then you go, okay, it's not working the way I think it is, I want to figure it out. So you start digging in to what is reality, how is it really functioning? So you get a blue pill or a red pill, yeah? If you've grown up in the 90s. What's the metaphor in the 2000s?
Metaphor for crap movie.
Metaphor for crap movie.
There is Avatar would be as close as there is. I don't think there is one.
I guess you guys haven't caught up to the 90s yet. And so then you prepare yourself, you begin to study, and a core component of that study is this idea of Chi Jedra. Okay? And I made it a little complicated for you last time because it's complicated. Yeah? Chi is
Quality.
and Jedra is
Characteristic.
so you can say quality and characteristic. Example, a car is a quality, a Chevrolet is characteristic of that quality. Whenever you have a Chevrolet, you always have a car.
What did you use also? You said general and
Specific.
general
Yes.
specific.
So you have a general,
Which is
which
chi.
is car, chi, and specific is that type of car. That's all. It's not a big thing. How does this help us? Okay? If you think of everything, and in the West, everything is the universe, or all universes, however meta you want to get. Yeah? If there is nothing other than all things, for us that word is the universe. Yeah? And if you were not perceiving that universe through the human limited range of experience, if you really saw the universe, if you really saw all things, if you really saw everything, not through, out of the visual range that we know exists, we are here. Out of the audio range we know exists, we are here. Who was it? I think Guy was telling me that a something shrimp has 16 cones. Cones and rods, we have 3. We can see red, blue, and yellow. Is that right? So imagine 16. They see shrimp, right? They see, if we see this range of color with 3 cones and rods, they see the universe that they're in, underwater, in all sorts of subtle luminescence we cannot experience. Yeah, that's also in the universe, but that's not in us. We can imagine it, but we can't experience it. It's shrink.
That's like, how do you, if someone can't see blue, how do you describe blue?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The absence of, no.
And that's limited too, right? 16 is limited.
That's limited, that's right. So what I'm saying to you is chi, another way to experience chi, if we go for absolutely all things, right? Chi. You don't know what that is. That's this thing, yeah? We call the universe. And then we begin to qualify things that fit into that whole characteristic, that whole general. We begin to get specific, just so we can deal and maneuver around this thing we're in. Chi is everything, and then we begin to get jedraks of that chi, which we call galaxies. Oh, there's all this galaxy and dark matter. Yeah, that's part of everything. Universe is composed of galaxies and dark matter. Or is it 3 things? Dark matter, space, and whatever the latest ideas are. It's not that way from its own side. It is the way that we have began to group, to interpret and see, oh, there's an edge over there. I'm calling that, not that, so we can make sense of it. We do that within galaxies, solar systems, and within solar systems and planets and stars, and within planets we say solid ground, not solid ground, living beings, not living beings, this type of living beings, not that living beings, chi, jedrak, all the way down to clock and a specific kind of clock, cars and Chevrolets, me and not me. And if you analyze it, it's just the mind creating a division where it doesn't exist the way you're perceiving. Understanding that and studying that in an intellectual way is the thing that flops you to understanding how we create this reality based on a universe that is empty of having a nature from its own side. The place we're floating in, and even that is a term, we are perceiving inside an infinite large box called your mind through 6 tiny holes that is omitting a whole range of perception. And guess what? Universes don't come in the 6 flavors of sight and sound and taste and touch. That's just our limit. So Chi Jedrak helps you, if you study it, understand how, based on whatever that is, we project onto that data an experience that is only relevant to the way we've coded experience. And that gets you to this thing called Supreme Dharma, on the last part of the second of the 5 parts. So remember, you got renunciation, you go, okay, things aren't working the way I thought, something else, something fishy is going on around here. You get like, I'm leaving this world. I'm looking for a new way. you start investigating how reality might exist, because I don't understand it so far. So you study. You study these things, you test, you practice. You walk down the street and you look for where's the treeness in that object. You meditate. You try, you fail a lot and you succeed some. But you're now in charge of your world. You have some information. At the peak of it, Chi Jedra is the thing that informs you how you're fabricating a nominal world. So at the peak of that experience, just before you enter the third path, you have this thing called Supreme Dharma. And it's not a Supreme Dharma. Dharma means teaching, existing thing, the ultimate teaching. It's not really the ultimate Dharma. It's the ultimate Dharma for a so-so kewo, because it's one of the last experiences you're going to have as a nominal being before you flop into Pakpa, a realized being who sees the universe, all things, in a different way. Like hopefully you did in your meditation when you turned around and you looked at your memories slightly different to what they were before you were close to enlightenment. So at the peak of that second path, and I can not give you a direct explanation, I can just share somebody's who I believe has had a direct experience of this and books that refer to this over and over, and not just Buddhist books, right? That you realize that you're fabricating your world and then acting towards that world as if it was out there. And that mistake is what causes things to break down. So you might be making a cup of tea for somebody and you have your kettle on the stove and you sit back to observe it, and there is an object and you're looking at this object, your mind begins to build the energy, the virtue that you've built up and understanding the universe, and it looks at that thing and it realizes for the first time it's not looking at a pot. It's not looking at a kettle. It sees, like in slow motion, the parts of that object is nothing like the perfect kettle that you have in your mind. It deconstructs. It's like in that crappy movie when he just starts manipulating the bullets. Yeah? You see that there's a shape, a certain color, a certain shading, and that your mind is upon it, imputing pot, because that's what you've always called that thing, but there is no pot like that out there. There are things, but it's nothing that you've just embodied. And like that, you are the same. That is a direct, a visceral experience of what they call dependent origination. That thing originated as a pot, independence of your projection, depending on the way you project it. Similarly, the dog looking at that object, if they had peak of Dharma, if they had the highest Dharma, if they could, they would see, woof, not hot, not shiny, not clean. For them, it's really, woof. That's all about Chi Jedra. That helps you, because after that, you then go into meditation. If you've been practicing all the things that you need to practice to be able to sit in meditation, if you've got no distractions, etc., if you've left the home life, if you began to build some kind of serenity in your mind, entering subtle states of awareness, based on that platform, caring after other beings, etc., having had that direct experience, thanks to Chi Jedra, because you saw how you organized those parts into a thing that was everything. Yeah? You saw that all pots and this thing called pot are a fabrication of a division that doesn't exist the way you think it exists. Then you go through a direct experience of emptiness, and that has two parts. One which is called water poured into water, and the second part which is once you come out of a meditative experience where there is no you and there's no nominal you, there's no perception of, oh, I'm seeing it, I'm having a direct experience of the ultimate. You can't have a single experience in there because you're not in a relative mind. Your mind is not in the relative realm. After you have that experience, you begin to, over the next 24 hours or something, your mind begins to have what I call the 16 aspects of the 4 Ariel truths. Yeah, and that's what the 4 Ariel truths, or the 4, what are they called?
Noble.
Huh?
Noble
Truths, people call them the 4 noble truths. The things that the Buddha said at the beginning of his teaching, which is that all things are suffering, all suffering things are cause. Things aren't shitty just because they were produced. Something made them shitty. Yeah, there's a way out of suffering. That suffering can stop. And there's steps to stop it. Instead of, the Buddha taught that because that's the first realization you have within 24 hours of the direct experience of emptiness. You have a direct and visceral understanding of what that means. And there's 16 aspects of that or something. 3 per Ariel truth, I think. So the truth of suffering is in coming down the experience of emptiness, in the second part of the path of seeing, but what that means is you see suffering first. You know that you're an impermanent thing and that you must die. It's not like an idea that you have right now. Oh, yes, I'm going to die. If you knew you were going to die, really, that you are produced of things that must end. If I knew that, so I don't know that sometimes, we behave differently. In this experience, we actually have a direct understanding that, oh wow, this is produced out of something that must end. Yeah, I'm going to die and I'm going to get old. That's a fact. In a different way that it was a fact before. You also have this kind of clairvoyance, and this is where it gets all mystical. Some kind of clairvoyance where you actually see how other people, you read other people's mind for a day, and you see how they are deceiving you or themselves and causing that suffering to begin with. You see it in your mind, and then you see it in others' minds, immediately following the direct experience of emptiness. Then you have the second experience of Ariel truths, which was, anyone? I'll just make sure I'm not going to read it.
Compassion.
The second.
Second is?
Is that the illusion? When you come back to the separate reality?
No, what are the causes of suffering?
The second of Ariel truths.
Clinging, grasping to things as self-existent. So the second of the Ariel truth is understanding the causes of suffering. The fact that you actually have been acting towards things as if they existed out there, you're attached to the idea that they exist in and of themselves, and therefore they should do something, and that was all mistaken. You actually see how that is the source of your suffering. Another example of things that occur to you there, or that spontaneously arise there, is that you realize that even the nicest thing you've ever done, like come to a Dharma center and serve and bow nicely and study, is colored with selfishness, something for yourself. Even the kindest thing, and it's a sombering, sad experience. That
I wanted you to be happy so you like me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like you now, okay? I wanted to say that, so you're there, like. You meet the Dharmakaya, you realize that experience, water poured into water, is the essence of the Buddha's mind, and therefore yours. So you understand that there is a way out of suffering. You see that there is a way that this ends. you also then the fourth arrow of truth is a way to get out, right? The way that this ends. And then you have a perception of how long it will take to end, what you need to do for it to end, how many lifetimes, etc. There are other things as well in there that are really cosmic. You walk out of there and you understand that there's images of deities and the rest are based upon a truth, based upon somebody actually having an experience of these beings, and so you treat these things differently. Same with these things, because they contain the elixir, the thing that solves the entire world's problems. It's not more money, it's not more food, that helps for now, that this thing will continue unless this elixir is understood, internalized, and experienced for each one. So then all of a sudden these things become more valuable than the cure for cancer. And you stand alone going, oh my God, I just got the only vial that exists. And then you understand, because of what you saw, the same, it's part of our own truth. The impulse to prostrate, to throw yourself on the ground because you saw something that can free everybody. That impulse to prostrate comes, and that's why we do it at the beginning. You have no more doubt. You actually, I haven't been there yet, I'd love to get there, and you have no more doubt that all this is not voodoo, and that all this other way of doing things is not also weird, and that you have a certainty that what you saw is a truth, and you also have a certainty that you're not deluded, and you also have a certainty it's not illusion. Then after that, you begin to have this thing called illusion. What's illusion? So we're now at the end of the third path, right? Path of preparation, path of accumulation, path of seeing. Is this what I just described? At the end of that, the way that things appear before, self-existently, the ignorance that you had in your mind begins to assert itself. You still think there is some kind of clock out there, that there is some kind of happiness with that partner and not with that one, that is nice. You see it coming at you like, the only difference is because of the experience you just had, you know without a shakeable doubt that it's a mistake, that you're in a movie, and that the movie is lying to you. Before you had an idea, you're having an intellectual understanding of what I'm saying. You can grasp some idea, and as I'm telling you, I'm grasping some idea. But imagine to know this. I'm in some kind of weird matrix, and that my karma is producing that thing over there to smile, you know? And the lovely thing it is. Yeah? It's a good karma. Bad karma is not. But imagine to know for certain that the impulses that come up, out of I like that, I don't like that, that's good, that's bad, you know for certain it's not the way it is. It'd be a little weird for a couple of lifetimes. Then you enter the path of habituation, which is what we're going to talk about for the rest of the night, which is how do you habituate your mind to understand what you just saw, internalize it, and completely transform this world rapidly. So when I walk into this room and we hear these decibels, they are nothing but bliss. They are true as you sitting here and I sitting here. They are as solid as this is appearing, except a little bit more. And it's bliss. So we talk about this idea of paradise or getting to Buddha. We'll talk about that. Have a break, come back at 9 o'clock. Lovely weekend. Thank you. That's intermission. Intermission.
Wait, what about the whole point, diamond? The diamond, like
the metaphor of the diamond.
Right, like you're after that experience.
Oh, that's one of the four things. The metaphor of the diamond comes to mind. You search for, thank you, you search for, that's what the whole Sutra is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You search for a metaphor to grasp onto that idea that you just that what you just experienced, and the closest we find on this planet, whether you know anything about diamonds or not, they say, is a diamond, because it's and so you'll go in search of anything to try and get that metaphor close to you, be it buy a diamond and make an offering with a diamond, or work at a diamond place. Diamond cutter then is, if the diamond is the closest metaphor to this experience of the ultimate, diamond cutter is this experience cuts the metaphor of the diamond, destroys. The diamond doesn't come close to the experience you just had in terms of ultimateness or clarity or rest. Thank you for that. Take a break, 10 minutes, back at 9, and we'll do part of habituation and Buddha. I don't have much to say about that yet.